Alrighty, guys, it's Winter Circle Wednesday. I'm Britt, and I'm here with Sherman Adcock. Sherman, you've won everything there is to win. NHRA championship, IHRA championship, $1 million race, big money bracket race. I remember at the beginning of this season, in the NHRA world, you went on an absolute tear that at one point Travis had a alarm set for every single Monday to give you a call and congratulate you because you were winning so many races. Talk to us a little bit about, how that felt. Did it add any pressure after you had won, two or three, and then it just continued to keep going?
No, not really. It's just kind of fell into place. We just kind of got started. We struggled with that car for a while. And I started with my car the year before and hurt a motor in it. Mr. Glenn says, well, just use my Corvette. He had to twist my arm, of course, to do that.
Yeah.
But we got a combination together and ran it a little bit last year, about 4 or 5 races. And it was good, but I just couldn't get any luck at all. And we changed a few things this year. We changed the stop and carburetor on it, and it just kind of like fell into place. And it's kind of the right place, right time, right guy. And all those thousands of races have been following my way till last weekend. I took a thou too much second round of Super Comp, and I got behind the thou too much in Super Gas third round. So they're just starting to catch up a little bit, but hopefully we can salvage a few more rounds this year and extend the lead a touch. I think we need that right now. There's some guys out there that I'm sure can do it. It's I got as many as I got. I know somebody can get more.
Yeah, for sure. So what you're telling me is drag racing is a lot of luck and a little bit of skill.
Exactly, and you got to have lots of luck. And it's right time, right place kind of sport, like Reinhardt says. So you just got to kind of stay with it. And the ticket, I think, right now is to show up. You got to keep showing up. Right. It ain't gonna follow. They don't send you no checks in the mail. You got to show up to get them.
Right.
Trophies neither.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout your drag racing career, you've partnered up with some of the biggest names in drag racing, Tatum, Horton, Meeks. What's that? How did that kind of fall into place, and what's that like?
Well, I've been fortunate. Me and Tatum and Meeks, we all grew up together. Them two and my brother at the Phoenix City Dragway. Most people don't realize Phoenix City was the first divisional race NHRA had. Back in those days, they used to go to Phoenix City on Wednesday night and have a pro stock race before the Gators every year. And but Phoenix City is a more outlaw place now. And but me and Hugh and Tatum and Woody, we grew up over there and learned how to bracket race before the junior dragster days. There wasn't no junior dragsters when we grew up.
So you didn't start in a junior?
They wasn't no juniors when we started. It was 20 years before juniors. But we learned to race over there. We chased each other around the pits. We'd swap cars, whatever, but we had a great time. We learned how to race, and all of us kind of went our ways and did our things. But I've been lucky to my father was a racer, and that allowed us to go. And my father was really more of a super stock racer. Mm-hmm. But as we grew, we played some sports and stuff, and the super stock stuff started getting out of hand for our wallet anyway. So we got involved in super gas and super comp and bracket racing, and I just kind of stayed with it. But we've been fortunate to have some great people. I've driven for some great people, had a lot of great opportunity. Mike Gruber helped us with some sponsorship stuff and with Valvoline and Power Oil in those days. And it's just right place, right kind of deal. It just back in those days there wasn't any. Rampy had a little help. I had a little bit of help through them, and I think Gruber picked up me and the Emmons boys, and Jay Payne and Tiffany Highland was like his first few people. And then it evolved with Fletcher, and it just kept rolling. And that deal evolved for like 15 years. It was amazing. You just got to follow the way the sponsors want to go. There was a year or two in there. I guess you call it, they laid us off, and then they come back, and then it's just. But you're familiar with marketing, so it all changes, and you got to let it follow and see what
Yeah.
goes. But we were fortunate for them, and Mike Gruber, he put that sportsman deal together. He was very good to a lot of sportsman racers, especially with product. He helped a ton of guys with product. He had all kinds of winners programs and things that promoted the sportsman racers really well. And but I was still fortunate. And then I got hooked up with my partner still now, Tim Lunsford, and me and him's raced together forever. And then me and Mark Horton got together. Now give me some great opportunities. I've driven some of his dragsters and his roadster, and he's having a few health issues now, but hopefully he's going to battle through those. And but now we're dealing with Mr. Glenn. He's taking care of us. We had a little stint with Blaster. Blaster helped us a couple 3 years there. It was a good deal. But and then Pete came along. We got that was some remnants of the old Valvoline days that helped us keep going there. And then I was kind of about ready to slow it down a little bit. And Mr. Glenn, our rule is we're having fun. As long as we have fun, we'll keep racing.
Right.
He told us this deal. He said this might last 6 months. It might last 6 years. He said, if we stop having fun, we'll quit.
I like that. That's what Trav's always told me. If you're not having fun, then why do it? Because we can think of, I mean, obviously you, but other racers that are some of the greatest racers out there, and none of them do it for a living. Even if they say they do or whatever, there's a lot of help along the way. And what you were talking about, partners, sponsorships. I know we're super thankful for any of the help we get, and that plays a huge role because racing's not a job. You're not going to survive off of racing forever. But like you said, it's all about having fun. And if you keep having fun, then why not? Keep doing it, right?
That's right. And it's like now we travel a lot, and we're buddies with the Houstons. There's the Hatfields and McCoys and the Houstons out of North Carolina, Junior and Paul and them. And it's just a big family deal. We cook together, we race together, we loan each other things, whatever we need, we do. And it's that way. The whole racetrack's that way.
Right.
I've been at the racetrack and had to borrow something from the L-Rods. I've been to the racetrack, they borrow stuff from me. It's just, there's no, it ain't like nothing else. And that's what keeps drag racing together.
Right. And speaking of that, it's a family-like atmosphere at the racetrack. Speaking on, the big topic right now, there's a lot of racetracks that are closing down that, that managers and people that own the racetrack don't necessarily want to keep open. And it's unfortunate because, what I experience at the racetrack is just what you said. Whoever's pitted next to me, we cook out together. It's a family atmosphere. If they need something, we give it to them. If we need something, they're always there to give it to us. And it's super unfortunate for some people that kind of take advantage of the sport and don't understand how hard the track operators and managers are putting into it. I mean, they're standing out there 12, 14-hour days and probably not getting paid a whole lot, not a big salary.
No, and I'm from the South, so it's really tough down here. The summers are so brutal. We're going to go this weekend to support Montgomery. Got a new owner over there, and it's going to be brutal, but we got to support the guys because we need those places in the spring and the fall, and that's when they flourish. But they got to survive through the summer as well. There's nothing in the winter, but we got to keep our racers, our racetracks supported. It's a tough deal sometimes, but those races that they have, they put a lot of effort in it, and nowadays there's so much money in compound and track compound and stuff that it just takes a lot out of it. And now it's in my business, it's just parts availability. You can't got it, but
right.
But it's all fun, and that's what we got to do, and keep it going. And that's where we're going and support the sport facilities so we can keep something. We're losing them.
Right. And you talked about earlier how much you travel. Obviously your wife, how does she feel about that? Does she always go with you? Does sometimes she not get off for work? How does that kind of play a role in your guys' life?
She goes a good bit, but she chooses to stay home sometimes too.
Get away from you a little bit.
Yeah, and that works both ways. She likes her time, and I like mine, and we like our time together. But she goes a good bit, and but she's a great supporter of me and the racing, and she enjoys going. She usually finds her a friend of some sort, Deidre, Hughes' wife, or another
Yeah.
lady in the pits, and they'll go run through town while we're out there spinning tires.
Right, like you said, it's a family atmosphere. But so let's talk about, obviously right now you're doing a lot of NHRA racing. You have done bracket racing before. And so what's the biggest difference, obviously, besides quarter mile and eighth mile with bracket racing and class racing, mentally and physically on the car? How do you adjust for each kind of race?
The NHR racing, it's just a, a longer deal. You got to pace yourself through. It's a run or two a day, and then once you start, no buybacks. It's just a different mental game, and it's a lot more preparation, and you got more time to prep,
Mhm.
but you gotta pay more attention to things like the weather and the track and the wind.
Right.
With the bracket racing stuff, it's the same way, and we're starting to see a lot more guys get weather stations and be more attentive and of things going. But most of the braggers, even the big money bracket races, they move a little faster pace. You're gonna get 3 to 5, 6, 7 hits a day.
Right.
You get 3 or 4 days of it. So you just have to pace yourself through. That's like Indy. People either love Indy or they hate Indy. There's
Yeah.
nothing. But I've always enjoyed Indy, but you have to go in there with a mindset in the start of the week of what we're going to do today. We're going to prep today. We're going to service cars. We're going to do whatever. But you got to work your way through it. They're going to give you a schedule. That's another good thing about HR. Their schedule is usually pretty solid, which I have noticed that even NHR and the bracket programs, they are adjusted for the weather. Years ago, 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't no adjustment of no kind. If we're going to get wet, we just getting wet. If we
Right.
didn't, we was in time trials or eliminations. But they're making adjustments this weekend at Indy Points Race. They made some adjustments to the weather. They kept telling us we're going to get soaked on Saturday. Never did rain. They finished, which that's what they needed to do. The rain come Sunday. But
Right.
I think that's a positive thing. It helps us on our travels. We ain't got to travel 2 or 3 times because
Right, because it's
long
usually a
way.
long distance too with NHRA. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not your local track right next to home that has a little bracket race going on. So,
right.
so since you started racing, how many years ago did you start racing?
I started NHRA racing. I got out of college in like '84, and we started in about '85 is when I started. I guess my long term deal through NHRA is I've been lucky to get to go to a lot of racetracks and places across the country. But I've been to the only event that I've not missed since 1985 is the Bowling Green Points Race, and a lot of people hate that place. It's hot, but I don't know. It's just a cool place to race. The
Yeah.
atmosphere and the things you can do. You know, in Dallas, it's sad. Dallas, he has spent so much time and effort on that place over these years to let it go, to let it flourish like it has. But he stayed. That's another place we definitely don't want to lose, and
Right.
it is a great facility. I would like to go to that. That's kind of my don't miss race every year is Bowling Green, and that's like the wrong one, but I
Yeah.
still like it up there.
Right, right. So when you, I guess, walk us through what's your game plan? You talked about how NHRA is such long days, and really in any kind of bracket racing or any kind of drag racing, whether it's bracket or NHRA, your really focus time is for a minute. So how do you prepare yourself? Whether it's in the lanes to focus for that minute. I mean, because some people say like, oh, you only have to focus for a minute, but I guess you don't have to stay focused all day. People think that you have to stay focused all day. And one of the best things that I actually heard this weekend was from Chris Bear, and he's obviously a very well known name in the bracket racing world, is you only have to stay focused for a minute. So how do you get yourself to focus for that minute, whether it's, you're racing your roadster or you're racing your dragster?
I guess, and I've came from I guess, competitive side of life, because I grew up, I played football and baseball, and I played a couple years of junior college baseball. So you take those. I had two main coaches, and they taught you fundamentals.
Mm.
And fundamentals, everything you do has fundamentals. And the fundamentals are the simple things. Well, you can't be good at fundamentals. You got to master the fundamentals. Those are the things you cannot screw up.
Right.
So my rule is just do the fundamental things right first.
Right.
The big things will happen. So I keep it small. I want to keep it small. And if I do the burnout and it ain't perfect, go to the next step. Don't, oh, I got to back up. Oh, I need to do this. Go to the next step. And make everything right. You know, small things like the staging and it's all concentration. And people don't realize the tree, that's the easiest thing to do. All you have to do is stage and let go when the light comes on. So we make it too hard. We make it way too hard. So, and you can't, everybody wants to drive the finish line before the stage. Finish line comes when you get to the finish line. So I just try to make it simple. I don't procrastinate on any one thing. I don't know. I know what my plan is, and I don't like to be overly predictable. That's another rule of mine is never be predictable.
Yeah.
I can be rolling dead on. I can be holding 2. I can be holding 6.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta. It's like Bogag says. You gotta stick to plan. You gotta execute the plan. Right. So, but as I get ready to stage, I'm not thinking about the plan. I'm thinking about let's get the burnout down. Let's get the stage down. Right. Tree's finna come on, let go. And as I'm rolling down the racetrack, then I'll start looking at the picture and think about what I do. Now I know what my plan is. If I'm holding 2 or holding nothing or holding 4, then I know what I got to do to get rid of it as I go. But it's not, you gotta, to me, you gotta let it come to you natural.
Yeah.
If you're knowing I'm just going to drop, kill, whatever, you're thinking about it the whole time. You're thinking about that stage, and it's not going to do you any good. Yeah. So I don't know, and that's just me. And I just feel like I'm sitting in a box all by myself. There's nobody around, and it's just, I don't know. The ticket is I got to make it easy, and the easier you make it on yourself, the easier it'll be in the end. And you're gonna get beat up. You're gonna get beat up in this sport.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. I've never kind of looked at it that way. Like you said, you were competitive your whole life, and I've played basketball my whole life. So that competitive edge is always there. Now it's just figuring out what your game plan is, because it's different with drag racing. I believe it's one of the hardest sports on the planet. I mean, you got to do a good burnout, give or take, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be good. So you're going down the track. You know, you have to stage relatively within the same spot, or it's going to throw off your reaction time. And then, then you have to let go, and then you have to drive the finish line. So there's multiple steps to racing, which that's why I believe it's the hardest sport there is. But how you broke it down, that's a very good. I might have to take you up on that advice. So,
but the drag racing is a game of mistakes.
Yeah.
So the least amount of mistakes you make, the more you increase your chances. So, and the mistakes you usually make are the fundamental mistakes, the simple things. So don't mess up the simple things, and then it'll all fold out. So the simpler you make your run, the less you have to think about, and then the more you get comfortable, it'll all fold in the end. Yeah. But that's the way I look at it. Just make it simple, and then those good things and those hero shots, they'll come. That time you take 2 thou, sometimes it's because you did. But it looks good on paper. You can run around the pits and pat yourself on the back. That's all good. You can hold the paper.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day and just kind of talking to us a little bit about everything it is that you do. And I know you still got a good NHRA season left, and hopefully we'll be able to make it out and see you. But we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for taking time, and good luck the rest of this year.
No, thank you, and appreciate you and what you do. And we'll see you around and continue doing this. This is good for the sport in general.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.